What's going on, everyone? We are officially back with another video. I've been kind of busy in January. The month kicked off and we just been slammed with all kinds of projects that have been just everybody calling, wanting to get all kinds of stuff done. So I've been a little backed up trying to get a video together, plus trying to get the Starlet done, some other project cars, some motors, and just all kinds of things. Just like I said, been pretty busy. So February's here. I wanted to give you guys an update on the Starlet for now. We have some other stuff to follow soon, but here is the Starlet sitting here ready to hopefully head to the dyno in the next, I'd probably say about 3 weeks. We're waiting on some injectors to come in. That is the one thing that is basically holding us up. Everything else is pretty much ready to go. We were waiting on the hood and we got that back, but the injectors that you see in here will be coming out. So these are the secondaries, these are the primaries. I'm going to replace these with a set of AFIS 250 pounders. These are decas that you see back here. So we should have plenty of fuel once we get this thing back on, get it back up and running again. I can't wait for, to get you guys some content of that. So that's what's up with the engine. Like I said, we were waiting on the hood. There was some modifications that had to get done to it. Here is the hood on top of the car, ready to go. So everything is pretty much coming along. What we got also to show you is here is the rear end. Just got this back from powder coating. So this thing is actual, man, this thing is a beast. It's a Jerry Bickle 9-inch housing. Supported basically for, God, I don't know, maybe 2,000 horsepower, all chromoly, doublers, as you can see here, just as strong as you could possibly get for a non-floater type rear end. So we wanted something good, something strong that we know can support what we are going to try and throw at this thing. That's pretty much the plan. We just want everything as heavy duty as possible. All right, next want to give you guys a little bird's eye view of underneath the car and kind of what happens underneath here for some of you guys that might not understand or want to know more about the suspension of an actual 4-link drag car. So, let's see if I get you guys some light here. Okay, hopefully this helps. But here you got your 4-link brackets. This is your, what you call your wishbone setup. This basically keeps the rear end centered in the car. So that is in here. You got your rear shocks. So this is an actual sway bar. So this actually keeps the car from basically rolling side to side. So this will mount up here. As you can see, these mounts, that's what they're for. They're for the actual sway bar. So the sway bar will go in here, and it has a series of rod ends that attach to basically these points that come down to the rear end housing. That little tab right there is for the sway bar. So that's what that's all for. We got a heavy duty version which consists of these arms here to reinforce the brackets that go down with the rod ends to the actual housing. So you don't want any flex in this assembly. You want this to be as rigid as possible so it keeps the car straight and not basically teeter-tottering left to right, which is what you want. That's the purpose of the sway bar. So we got some heavy duty shock mounts that are gonna go in. I had to notch these a little bit because when they sit in here, this is this side. So this will sit right in here, and it kind of has a little bit of an angle, and you didn't want it to hit down in there. So I had to notch the bracket just a little bit just to clear the actual bottom of the shock. So we got that done. We are waiting for all new hardware for the 4-link. So that's all going to change. So we want brand new NAS aircraft quality hardware. These are the bolts that we put in there. This is not a grade 8 bolt. This is a actual NAS aircraft bolt. So they're stronger than the actual grade 8. Here is your typical grade 8 bolt. You won't see it in the bolt because obviously you can. It's just the way the bolt is made. But you always know by these numbers that are on the actual bolt. I don't know if you could read that, probably not with the GoPro, but it says NAS and then you got your part number, where a grade 8 bolt doesn't have any of that. So waiting on that. Also, we are waiting on some heavy duty rod ends. So I use these just to mock everything up. And I ordered new rod ends as well. So this is your lower bar in your 4-link assembly. this is your upper bar. So yes, there is a difference in diameter, only because the bottom bar is the one that has the most tension. When the car tries to launch, the rear end basically wants to shift this way. If this lower bar is a smaller diameter, it can have a tendency to flex. So what ends up happening is this bar is 1.25 inches, 0.95 thick. This new bar is 1.5 inches, 120 wall, so considerably stronger. Just because you don't want any, again, no deflection, similar as the sway bar. You don't want any kind of deflection in there. You want this thing to be as solid as possible. Along with, you want the rear end to basically be as free as possible, which is why we don't want any issues with the shock mount and all that other stuff. So that's kind of the update. These are the axles, 40 spline, strange gun drilled axles. There's a little one and a small one, just because the way the pinion is offset in the actual carrier. So that is the actual third member that's going to go in the pumpkin there. I'm sorry, the pumpkin that's actually going to go in the actual housing. So we should have all that hopefully in the car by the end of this week, and then we can get the car back on the ground just to you know, again, wait on the injectors and get this thing fired up and hopefully to the dyno. So I will have to run the brake lines back in, finish the brake lines there, make sure we bleed all the brakes. But yeah, you could see all the supports, all the bars back here that basically keep the back of the car pretty steady. You don't want, again, you don't want chassis flexing around. You don't want, you know, your rear end components moving around. So nowadays you basically want to make the chassis as stiff as possible, just because you don't want any movement of any of those components, and you basically can get any adjustment you want out of your shock. These aren't the absolute best shocks. A lot of guys would probably use, I don't know, I think in the old school class, these strange double adjustables are a very popular shock. As you can see here, this is the shock again. It's got 2 adjustments. So you got 2 adjustments, one for compression, one for extension, and you got about average about 10 adjustments on each. One's a little bit more than the other, but you can literally make this shock as tight as you want on compression, and you could make it as tight or loose, vice versa for both, on extension. So eventually I'd like to get some shock sensors back here as well that you would mount from anywhere. You have to basically just build a bracket and they have a little shock rod that would go from the chassis to the rear end housing, and it would show you the travel as you launch the car, as the car is going down the track, and you get really good data from that. So that's something we'll probably add as well, just to have more information and see exactly what the shock is doing and how the car is performing in the 60 foot. So but yeah, so again, like I said, you have your 2 adjustments here, and this is very critical with a short wheelbase car like the Starlet. These cars can be very tricky with trying to launch them, for the simple fact that they only have a 90-inch wheelbase. So there's a lot of variables that go into getting the car to launch the way you want it. Shock adjustment is one of them. Tire pressure is another one. You have all the flexibility of your launch control. So you got different, you know, boost numbers you can target to launch the car to get it to run right. Depending on track conditions, there's so many variables involved, different RPM. So all that basically goes into play with each other. You know, you got, again, RPM, amount of RPM you want, the amount of boost you want, how tight you want your shocks, how loose you want your shocks, how much air pressure you want to run in the tires. You got wheelie bar setups. So all that whole combination has to go hand in hand to get the car to again leave as good as you want it. So one of the next things we're going to do too is, once we get all this back together in the back of the car, we will get it down on scales and scale all the counterweights and make sure we have the counterweights the way we want it. So ultimately what you want in the rear of the car is, you want pretty close, you want your left and your right rear tires to be kind of the same. What I always do is I don't have as much weight on the right rear tire, because no matter what, even with the sway bar that you try and get all of the anti-sway out of the car, the torque of the engine always wants to torque the rear, basically lift the front of the car up and apply pressure to the rear right tire. So we'll leave that a little lighter, nothing crazy, maybe 10 or 15 pounds, just to compensate for when the car decides to roll back and hit the tire. So that's pretty much it. We got it all here, like I said, ready to go. We got our Ogami Racing sticker, got to represent Billy. Couldn't ask for a better owner, man. He really is the best guy I've ever worked with. Always in a good mood, super humble, always happy to help, to do anything he can on his part. He really is just an amazing guy. I want to give a shout out also to Ralph from Pro V Racing Products. He decided that he wanted to jump on board with us as well. Offer any of the if we need any help with any valves, which we will. We want to get some, a spare head going together, maybe even have 2 spare heads. So that's all in the works, so we're going to work on that. I want to say thank you to Barry as well from Tron Pistons. He decided that he wanted to be on board as well. So we have a set of pistons on the way coming for a spare motor, for a spare short block. So that's definitely in the works as well. So a lot of good things coming. I can't wait to get it to the dyno to show you guys what a 3S, 5S combination can actually do. It's been a long time since we had a big power car in the dyno. And I think it'll be really interesting to see, technology's changed a lot over the years since we put up some numbers very long time ago. And I'm curious to see what we can do now. The turbo, again, isn't as big as we would like it to be, but HPT has shown that they can really put out some solid numbers with something that would be smaller than what the competition normally has. So I think if we can make, I don't know, I'm just shooting a number out there, even 1250 would be amazing. So anything over 1100 would be great, depending on the boost that we make that at, and then we'll be able to push it and see how much more we can get out of it. So that's the plan. Again, give you guys a little interior shot. We have new seat belts that are here that we are going to change. Put new seat belts in the car because, they expire every 2 years. But ultimately, man, stay tuned because we have so much more footage going to come with this car. So much other stuff that's happening in here as well. I'm trying to, like I said, I know I've been slacking this last month, but trust me, just trying to get everything together so I can really give you guys a lot of data as far as, engines, cars, all kinds of stuff. So stay tuned. I will see you guys in the next one. I hope everyone's having a good year so far. Take care.